Hello everybody, welcome back to Momo vs. MTG. Today we'll be taking a look at another Commander deck tech of mine on Massacre Girl, Known Killer. This recently came out in the Murders of Karloff Manor, and is a new Massacre Girl. But this one is more suited, it seems to be, as a legendary commander. I originally had a Massacre Girl deck with the other Massacre Girl, just straight up. Of course, she's still in deck because just fits the theme too well. But this one seems to be a little more creative in a direction you can go. And I basically merged that deck with my old one with some upgrades. So let's, without further ado, take a look. So for 2 mana and 2 black pips, you get a legendary creature, Human Assassin, Menace. Creatures you control have Wither. So the Wither ability, they deal damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. And whenever a creature opponent controls dies, if his toughness was less than 1, you draw a card. So basically, the idea behind this deck is it's a very board creature controlling package of a deck. A lot of kill spells and especially tokens. Um, this is the type of deck that you see across the table, and it runs a ton of removal trying to control the game. So bear that in mind. It's a probably a little more powerful deck, especially against the creature decks, but spell slinging decks will probably have a little bit tougher of a time. So just bear that in mind. But I think it was a fun build around nonetheless. So without further ado, let's jump right into this deck tech. First off, let's start with the RAM package. We get to run a lot of the ritual effects like Calling of the Weak and Dark Ritual, especially Calling the Weak. We make a lot of tokens ourselves to kill, so it's pretty good here. Um, and basically, getting out to your commander is probably the most important thing to keep our card draw engine online, because the more we kill with, toughness 1 or less, the more cards we draw. And it's very easy to draw cards in this deck so long as we have a commander out. So, Calling the Weak, Dark Ritual, Fax Soul Ring, Wayfarer Baubles. Drowsing Dagger is a nice fit here because we like the effects, so I'll go into this deeper, but we like the effects that have tokens create for our opponents. So giving them 2/0/2 plant creature tokens with Defender isn't bad at all. Um, and as well as ramping us, it buffs our creature. And if we do connect, then we get to transform. So it's either we're drawing cards, especially if it's with our commander or other creatures when we attack them, or we're transforming us into a Lost Veil, which taps for 3. So a great card at deck. Jet Medallion, reduce its mono black, so why not throw this in? Liquid Metal Torque is an interesting fit in the deck because it's a mana rock, but has this artifact ability to turn things into. And there's a niche combo in the deck, very, very niche, where we can turn something into an artifact and then remove it, which I'll jump into next. Thought Vessel, since we're going to have a ton of cards. Crowded Crypt is pretty cool. Expensive mana rock, but when creatures die, you put corpse counters on it, which hopefully will be killing a lot of creatures in this deck. And then for 6 mana, we create many 2/2 zombies where the number of corpse counter on it. So the more we kill, the more this grows, the more zombies we get. All good stuff. LaBelle Sack Baggins for 3, right? Flash Menace. And if we kill in a card that has a ton of power, we get that much treasure if we flashes in the same turn. And then lastly, a Black Market, right? 5 mana, expensive ramp, but when creatures die, we put counters. Hopefully, again, we'll be killing a lot of creatures. So I do want to start with this Liquid Metal Torque tech before I forget about it, because we run a card called Gate 2 Phyrexia, and basically I wanted, not only creature removal, but having more controlling over the enchantments. And so this is a way to do it. So the beginning, so you can only activate during your upkeep and only once per turn each turn, right? So one singular repeatable removal. So that's powerful. And any permanent, right? But it says sacrifice a creature, destroy target artifact. We have creatures to sacrifice, and we want artifacts destroyed. So the way with Liquid Metal Torque is you tap it, turn some, mainly enchantments, right? Because black has a hard time dealing with enchantments. Tap Liquid Metal Torque, turn enchantment into an artifact. Now you get this ability on your upkeep to destroy it. So very, very, very niche edition here, Gate to Phyrexia. But yeah, besides that, there isn't too much of an answer to enchantments, so I was like, I'm really stretching at the seams here for something. So that's rant over on that. So without further ado, let's jump into the main game plan and the stuff that helps it. Um, so the main game plan I wanted to go for is when stuff dies, you get +1/+1 counters. So Blade the Blood Chief and yeah, all these cards, Terrian Soul Cleaver, Ghost Lantern, all have various effects, but the idea is if a creature dies, it gets +1/+1. This also returns a creature, so Recursion is nice as a addition. I really like this card. Eternal Thirst is nice, because then it gives us some lifelink. When also creatures die, they grow. So hopefully we slap this on a commander or one of our other creatures that grow by themselves to expedite the process. Necrosynthesis, same thing, but also gives us card selection. I really like this because if we have a ton of counters on it, even if the creature dies, we get to dig through our library for a card where it's its power, right? Really nice card. And then all the cards that grow themselves. So Venom Crawler, especially whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 on it. So all these effects, because we have a lot of removal, and a couple of our all-star cards, which I'll mention, play off this really nice. Volgar, Necropotence Tyrant from I think it's the Commander Knight, right? Yeah, Game Night Free For All. So, cool commander on its own, but, the important part for us, another creature dies during your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this guy. And whenever he dies, draw a card for each +1/+1 on it. So, nice value here. Merciless, I really like for 6, right? I love the effects that punish people from searching the library. And also another creature dies, put a +1/+1 on him. So grows himself. Patient Vein, same thing. It's a vampire, so also works especially well with Blade of the Blood Chief. Destroys a creature, and when a creature dies, exile, so graveyard hate, and put a +1/+1 on each vampire, which we don't have too many, besides this one, right? Sengir of the Dark Baron, same idea. He's a partner commander, funny. But for 6, whenever another creature dies, put 2 +1/+1s on him. And if someone loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn begins. So, all added benefits here. And again, the big thing here is they all grow. They all grow in size. And not only with our other board wipes and stuff, we have our commander. So when these things grow and people decide to block them, they're going to put -1/-1 counters on the creatures, and if they kill them, we draw cards. So plays pretty nice into our commander here. Hopefully we're killing the board while growing ours is the idea. And, a lot of things help us get there. That's I'll touch on is stuff like Meat Hook Massacre. You can give -X/-X till end of turn. Helps gain and drain life, which is really powerful, really good. So all these type of effects, especially the --/ counters, because then if someone has a bunch of 1/1 tokens or 3/3 tokens, X equals 3 here or something, our commander will live, but then all the other creatures of our opponent's control will have 0 toughness or less, right? One toughness or less when they die, and then we'll be drawing a ton of cards while clearing the board. So, again, yeah, these effects play nicely on everything, and especially because our creatures will be growing at the same time. So a card that works especially well, right, is the Massacre Girl herself, right? The original one is what is the Seeker Commander, right? So they're basically dual commanders for the deck. It's just you have to find this one for 5, right? When Massacre Girl enters the battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 to end turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 to end turn. So it's basically a chain effect. If there's a bunch of 1/1 creatures out, it's basically a guaranteed board wipe. Because let's say there's even 5 out. They all get -1/-1. You're drawing a ton of cards here off, Massacre Girl himself. Hopefully you have some growing effect on her. When things die, she grows, like Blade the Blood Chief, right? So meanwhile, 5 death triggers with Massacre Girl will now happen. She gets to put 5 -1/-1s on everything, but hopefully we have a Blade the Blood Chief, Ghost Lantern out. We can stack these triggers first to grow our creature. so it doesn't die, and then continue on the chain until everything is removed from the board properly, right? That's the idea of slamming this thing down. And hopefully we're left with a big momentum swing where we have tons of big creatures. So definitely the all-star of the deck is the other Massacre Girl. But all these other effects are really good too. Stuff that reduces toughness, right? All creatures get -3/-3, added benefit. Soul Suffers, right? Put a -1/-1 on each creature. Cool. Probably can draw some cards, but if not, there's another combo with the counters themselves, which I'll go into. You know, not a true game-ending combo, but a very powerful one. Of course, for flavor, the original Massacre card from Nemesis, right? You can cast it for free. If the conditions are met, all creatures get -2/-2. Very nice. Then one of the battle cards here, which gives something -13/-13. So all these cards you can think of cycling themselves by killing a creature and drawing a card. So that's where the big value of the deck comes into play, is we're constantly killing creatures, burning cards here, but meanwhile drawing cards on top of it, if not a lot more. So it's just a big value pile, mono black control stuff, basically what it comes down to. Some other kill spells, Feed the Swarm, again, are enchantment removal, basically our only thing besides what I talked about. Or artifact, right? Bloodline Calling is a new card. It came out, I guess, well, not newer, but Innistrad Midnight Hunt, right? I really like this card. It's an instant. Give a creature -5/-5, or tokens -2/-2. Very powerful card. I like the instant speed on this a lot, right? Yeah, and then Harbinger Knight is one of our other creatures I think is funny, because each upkeep put a -1/-1. Hopefully we can negate those counters by growing our own, etc., etc. So nice repeatable -1/-1 counters. So in particular, I want to touch on why we want the counters is we have some sort of funny creature here called Necroskitter, right? So it doesn't work with the Massacre Girl herself, right? Because, well, our commander, yes. I want to distinguish. Because Wither, Wither's gain from our commander gives it to our creatures, and they give -1/-1 counters. So that's our main way of putting the counters, besides the Harbinger of Night, or Soul Snuffers, right? These are the only cards in the deck and the commander that really give -1/-1 counters. Everything else here gives like -2/-2 until end of turn. They're not counters, so it's not a combo there. So you're just killing stuff. You're not getting the Necroskitter effect, which, let's read. For 3, you get a 1/4. Whenever a creature your opponent controls with a -1/-1 counter and it dies, you return that card from the battlefield under your control. So a very powerful effect if we can, kill all our creatures, give everything -1/-1, at least one counter, kill the board, and now we get all of it back with our Necroskitter trigger. So a big momentum swing and way to steal all your opponent's creatures. So something to look out for. Yeah. And then the rest of the cards here really just help the game plan along. Again, a lot of kill spells are the card draw, so we only have a few true card drawing stuff here, like Loth the Spider Queen, right? Cool. Draw a card. And the big thing is also like whenever another creature control dies, put a loyalty counter on it. So we can have a ton of loyalty to get the ultimate, or just create a ton of 2/1 black spider creature tokens. With Medicine Reach, we can sacrifice each turn 2. And all the tokens we create, our opponents create, are going to grow our board here over here, our main creatures. And then another WinCon outlet, I have Raska's Fall, right? It's a removal spell, but also gives a poison counter, which is the important part. We only need one poison counter, right? If we have Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. Again, very powerful effect. Already draws you cards. It's just a strong board controlling creature aspect deck. Because we're to put -1/-1 counters and draw. And we also have this effect here later on when we're stuck with a ton of cards in hand, hopefully in a decent amount of mana to just proliferate that poison counter to win the game that way. So we're either swinging game for big creature, proliferating with poison counter to death, or stealing all our opponent's creatures. So multiple outs of the deck, and again, a Gary Merchant Aphodos, 5 mana, recur this. We have a lot of devotion since we're a board focused deck, to gain and drain our opponents. So lots of stuff. And the rest just helps our game plan. So let's just take a look. I like the cards that just gain life. Black is, has some decent options. It's a little tougher, but Profane Momentum I like in the deck because, again, killing a lot of creatures. Hopefully we'll be gaining a lot of life. Also turns off kind of other aristocrats. Keeps us alive from Blood Arts effects. This is nice. Bastion of Remembrance, same thing. You create a token, which is good. We can kill it, grow creatures, and drain our opponents, right? Which we're getting a lot of value out of these. And the big thing with our big creatures, giving them haste and trample are the key things. First strike is an added bonus as well. Once they grow really big to get them through. This is definitely a way to do it. So, Chariot of Victory is nice. Nemesis Mask is also nice if we want to kind of board wipe with our creatures. Let's say we have a really big, 2020 creature on the board. We can now force our opponents to block it. And now, since they're dealing damage in forms of -1/-1 counters, draw a ton of cards too. And then lastly, Sword of Vengeance is nice. +2/+0, nice. First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, Haste. All nice keywords here. Gets our creatures through. So I like a couple of these in the deck. Not too many, but just enough. And then in our enchantment package, we have some cool stuff like some reanimation. Which I gotta sort out, actually. Let me sort this out real quick. And this is kind of like card draw, token creation. Token creation is the bigger category here. Let's put it here. And the rest is kind of... This is weird because this adventure is a board wipe as a sorcery, right? Target creature or a removal spell. -3/-3 on turn, you gain 2 life. Cool. And then later on, you can cast it as an enchantment and to return target creature from a graveyard. So something we kill, we like, we get it back the next turn. Came out wild to Eldraine. Very nice card. Yeah, so all this stuff really flows together nice between removing creatures, getting them back for yourself, and then gaining tons of mana, gaining tons of cards. So it's just a self-building engine that hopefully leads you to eventual victory. Besides that, we do run a decent amount of recursion because some of it's just free and some of it's not too much cost. So Witch's Cottage is kind of free. We have a ton of swamps. Return something to the top that we could draw it. Black Sun Twilight, removal spell, right? Can draw us a card and also return a creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield tap. Pretty cool if we pay enough into it. I talked about this. Alter a Ball, repeatable exile creature you control. Again, we have a ton of tokens, which I'll touch on. And return something to the battlefield and also creates a token. So, nicey nice. Resurrection Orb I really like because, again, lifelink. I like lifelink in my decks. And also it can reanimate something for free if it's equipped and it dies. So again, really nice for the guaranteed repeatable stuff. Doesn't cost too much except for mana. Agonies and Wakings kind of free. I always go over this card. Dread Return, we have a lot of tokens to sacrifice, which we'll go into. And we can do it again. This first one is pay mana, just return something from my graveyard, and then has flashback. So we can do it twice. Thrilling Encore is a really cool game shifter as well. We Toxic Deluge for a big board wipe or something, right? Yeah, put on the battlefield under your control. So 8 mana, Toxic Deluge in this. Put on the battlefield under your control. All creatures in all graveyards are put there from the battlefield this turn. So huge reanimation spell on a stick. Yeah, later on could be big game changer. Black Sun Zenith is one of the all-stars of decks because, again, actually puts the -1/-1 counters, which, again, not a lot of these spells in the deck do. And you could do it repeatably. So, very nice option here for repeatable board wipe, which I really like. And then Ferocious Outbreak is the another poison counter, and then also each creature your opponents control, give -1/-1, maybe kill some creatures. But again, 2 poison counter sources and a way to proliferate them out of the moon with a Yawgmoth here. And again, our big board wipes are these, kind of, and a Toxic Deluge, which I need to sort out a little bit. I'll have to sort it out by the time this is uploaded for sure. Yeah, and then the last piece, which I've been glancing over, is, well, second to last, our protection. Commander's Plate's really nice here. Makes her commander a 7/7, which is a 3-turn clock, something of note. But it gives her protection from all colors outside of her color's identity, so everything not black gives it protection from, basically. Massacre Rebirth is a free card because it's a land, can reanimate something, so I really like the recursion package we have here. I think it's pretty decent for the deck. And then lastly, we have all the ways to create tokens, whether it's for us or whether it's our opponent, right? Bitter Blossom gives us a token every turn, a 1/1. And again, these creatures either can chip for damage, or when they die, grow our creature is the, big name of the game. Genesis Chamber is probably one of the all-stars. Because everyone be creating 1/1 mirrors. More stuff to kill, more cards to draw, and they're already 1/1, so they're already buttered up to be removed. And hitting a bunch of mirrors with the Massacre Worm is pretty good. And again, it sets up the chain nicely for our Massacre Girl herself here to draw tons of cards. So the more tokens we give our opponents, the stronger we become in a way, right? Moving down the list here, Slaughter Specialist is one of my favorite cards in the deck. Each opponent creates a 1/1 white human creature token, and whenever a creature an opponent control dies, put a +1/+1 on this. So it kind of grows itself and gives tokens, which is especially good in the deck, so I love this card. Tribute to Hirobi is kind of funny. Gives their opponents rats. They can trade them off, which is interesting. If they really played around that, yet to see it. But again, if the rats are still around, you gain control of them. And turns into card draw later, so kind of neat, I guess. But again, big thing, creates tokens. This creates tokens, but again, Black Market's Connection does everything. Treasures, card draw, tokens. Very powerful. Rise of the Dead Marn is, I like this card a lot, because you can foretell it. And then when you have big board wipe happens, create X/2/2 Black Berserker Zombies, where X is the number of non-token creatures that died this turn. So a big board wipe on a lot of creatures. You're getting a board state of your own back, which again will either be creatures to swing out with or grow your board. Crone's Horse is a fun card in the deck. Again, someone gets a 0/4, and then at beginning of your upkeep, each opponent creates a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So a fun card for the deck, creates tokens. And then Clackbridge Troll is a nice card, because an opponent for 5 mana, right? You get a trample haste 8/8 straight off the bat. Target opponent creates 3/0/1 goats. At the beginning of combat your turn, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. So potentially, like, hey, who wants to sacrifice something? If they do, it gets tapped. You gain life. You draw a card instead of attacking with it. And again, creates tokens, grows her stuff with the reminder, our Blade of Blood Chief effects, right? So really good in that regard. Zat's Will I really like for 5 mana. If you draw your commander, you get both, right? So either or. Each opponent sacrifices a creature that they control with the greatest power. Cool, good removal. Or exile all cards from all opponents' graveyard, so good graveyard hate at instant speed. And then you create X/0/1 Black Thrall creature tokens, where X is the greatest power among creature cards exiled this way. So potentially a big board state for you. More tokens for you, more better. And a Tefish Zod, right? Doom of Fools. Good commander in his own right. But yeah, creates tokens himself. It draws cards. So all good stuff. And namely, the Planeswalkers, I will note, do not get hit by most of the board wipes, right? These are all creature based. So if you could stick them around and maybe ult them later on, tons of value. So yeah, everything else is pretty neat. Oh yeah, and Forbidden Orchard is a neat token creator, which I should have threw in here. A free 1/1 token giving to someone every turn anytime you tap this. Really good for us. Um, yeah, and everything else is, I'll go into the land base a little bit. You have your Phyrexian Tower, sacrifice a creature, add mana. We have a ton of tokens to sacrifice, so it's good. Reliquary Tower, full hand. Plaza Hero protects legendary creatures. And Shrine to Nykthos and a Cabal Coffers for the deck. Again, do similar things. This is based on swamps you add mana for. This is your devotion. We have a lot of devotion in this deck because of our permanent focused deck with lots of black pips in their mana requirements. And the rest is pretty general. Urborg sure helps Cabal Coffers. That kind of deal. Some of these lands also can give -2/-2, so even our lands can draw cards later on. Sack Outlet's nice. That kind of deal. So I will say that this is, definitely, again, a more powerful deck, especially against creature focus and especially against token focused decks. We'll struggle a bit probably against, spell slinging decks, but again, that's why we have token creation of ourselves to grow our own creatures in that regard if it comes down to it. Or again, our commander with some commander damage if need be, if they're not playing anything, right? So you have options for all the cases. And either way is again, a more powerful deck. And it was really fun to build around. I really like the original Massacre Girl, so I'm really glad they reprinted something that makes a more suitable commander, I feel like. Really, really happy with this card and happy with the deck. So, yeah, without further ado, thanks for hanging out with Momo versus MTG. This has been Massacre Girl, Node Killer, EDH Deck Tech. If you have decks you want me to take a look at, reach out to me, leave a comment down below with a link or something. I'll take a look at it if you want, do a review. I'm cool with that. Maybe give some suggestions. If not, let me know what commander you want to see next down below. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, y'all.